Back in 2019, I bought my first software business, and fast forward to 8 months later, and I had already received all of my investment back. This was the light bulb moment that convinced me SaaS was the future. Since that date, I've gone on to been proven correctly with my thesis that recurring revenue businesses, and especially software businesses, are the best way to make money online. And in this video, I'm going to prove that to you. Since then, software acquisitions have been the most profitable assets I've ever owned. And I've even been investing in crypto, Bitcoin, the stock market, every sort of asset out there since 2017. Over the last decade, I've gone on to build, buy, consult on millions of dollars worth of SaaS acquisitions. And in this video, I want to unpack everything I've learned along the way. And just so you understand, not all software businesses are good. This isn't as black and white as you might think. So you're going to need to stick around for the whole video to really understand the nuances that go into this. In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 reasons why SaaS is the best business model to make money online, and especially in 2026. And I'm going to break down some of the misconceptions I see every day, and especially the risks that come along with ChatGPT and AI tools really disrupting every single way to make money online. And before we dig into that, if this is your first time seeing me, make sure to hit subscribe for the new videos I'm putting out every single week on how to earn from anywhere. Look, I get it. You see all the different headlines. AI replaces entire software teams. ChatGPT builds apps in seconds. 90% of software companies will disappear in the next 10 years. And you know what? Some of these headlines are actually true. ChatGPT is disrupting software, but it's disrupting just about every way to make money online. And I'll get into some of the nitty-gritty on why that's the case and the exact 5 reasons and ways you can protect yourself to make an unstoppable software business. Now, after more of a decade of doing this, I've created an acronym that's really easy to understand, and it's going to be the 5 reasons. And essentially, it's called POWER. P-O-W-E-R. In the past, I've only talked about this on keynote talks or in my TED Talk, but today I'm going to reveal all the secrets just for you. This is the exact framework I use to evaluate every single SaaS acquisition, and it's the same framework that tells me whether a business will thrive or die in the AI era. Starting off with the P in POWER is pricing. This is the number one differentiator between almost every other business model out there. Whether it's an affiliate or an Amazon FBA business, you really have full control over your pricing, where you don't really have that luxury with an ad network, affiliate, or other platforms that you're building on. They basically don't give you that freedom to control your prices and to fully control them. Yeah, on Amazon, you might be able to change your prices, but if the competitor's selling the exact same thing for half price, do you really have full control? You don't. And this breaks it down into one sort of sentence: if you can't control your prices, you don't control your business. Period. This is a strong phrase, but there's a lot of reason and rationale behind this. Think about it. If you're running an agency, you're competing on deliverables, someone can always undercut you. In an e-commerce business, you're basically racing to the bottom, selling the same different things unless you have a very unique product that only you can make. Drop shipping, same thing. It's everyone just selling the same products from China with a little bit of a different spin on the marketing. But with SaaS, you can actually set the price and you can control a whole market space. You can control the tiers. You decide what's included in basic, pro, or enterprise. And again, you can get feedback from the market. And in general, a lot of people base their pricing off of competitors, but a lot of times this isn't the best way to do it. It's about creating a unique experience and delivering unique packages for your user that solves real problems. And this is how I look at pricing and product when you're determining what is actually happening. Is the price actually solving a big problem? That's the question I'm asking when I'm looking at all these sort of SaaS businesses. What do the competitors look like? That's only like 10 or 15% of my pricing analysis. I look at what sort of problem these people are having, how big that problem is, how common that problem is in the United States, Canada, other countries, and then how often are people experiencing this problem. Is it a problem they experience once every 5 years, or is it a problem they're experiencing once every 5 hours? That's going to be a big difference. Now, the second letter is the offer, and I kind of alluded to it with the pricing because they do kind of go hand in hand. The offer is essentially the outcome that your SaaS is creating for somebody. What are you doing to help that person? What problem are you solving? What is your actual offer? And again, you can change this for each sort of pricing tier. The offer might be a little bit different, but overall, your product should essentially solve the offer. But on the lower tier plans, maybe it solves it a little bit faster, or maybe it doesn't solve it in the way as some of the higher tier plans. A lot of times the different offers are going to include priority support, more users, or just custom access for a bigger team or an enterprise sale. And on the lower end, it's going to include basic support, one user, and maybe some sort of other limitations that come with the actual product. Now, when I'm looking at a software product, I look to see, do they build their product on a freemium model? And freemium models can be really good ways to buy online businesses, but to grow and scale, they're terrible. One of the first things I do in past acquisitions is figure out what is the actual upsell from the freemium model to the paid plans. A lot of times it's terrible or sometimes even non-existent. And the biggest problem I see is they make the free plan where it just doesn't really do anything that well. So the two main issues I see with this is one, their free plan just sucks. They don't make it good enough and it doesn't really give people a good experience on the actual software. Or two, the free plan is too good where they don't need to actually buy the pro plan. So again, it can be a great way to launch your product, but when you're scaling and focusing on actually making your business more profitable, what I typically do is remove that free plan. And then I basically say, hey, you've got 30 to 90 days to use the product. Afterwards, you're going to have to switch to a paid plan. This is the highest converting way to grow a business because it basically defaults people down to one of the plans. And what I do is I basically give people, hey, you've got a 14-day trial or 14-day guarantee on any of our plans. Try it out. Get the full experience of what a paid plan looks like. And if you don't like it after 14 days, we'll give you your money back. This is the approach that has worked well for scaling just about every acquisition because it forces people down to use one of your paid plans. And if they don't like it, they get refunded, they move on. Now, the reason this works so well is because you don't necessarily need those free users to justify your product to get your initial traction because that traction has already been had. And a lot of times when I'm looking and doing an analysis of software businesses, the free users are just free users. They use and consume a lot of the resources, a lot of the customer service, and they cause about 90% of the problems for giving you no revenue. So shutting that off, funneling out the good people to a paid plan, eliminates all of that. Profits go up, revenue goes up, and customer service usage goes down. It's a win-win across the board.
If you guys like that part, you're gonna love this. I'm giving away my best-selling book for absolutely free, and here's how you can get the audiobook in just a few seconds. Inside this book is the same techniques I've used to work abroad in paradise in more than 100 different countries. And the best part, this strategy hasn't just worked for me, it's helped hundreds of thousands of people earn more, work less, and travel the world. I'll leave a QR code here where you can get the audiobook for free with a free 30-day Audible subscription.
Now, next up is the W, which is the who. This is basically your customer base. One of the biggest issues with selling my book on Amazon is I don't know who actually buys it. I don't get the data from my customers. And that is one of the biggest issues I see with a lot of affiliate businesses, a lot of ad-based businesses, any of these businesses on Amazon through e-commerce or FBA. You're not actually owning your customer base. And so with a software business, that's one of the differentiators. You actually own your customer data. So if your business is depending on other platforms where you actually don't own your data, it's actually going to be a big differentiator. And it's one of the big value adds in actually owning a software business. You control your user data. You can understand what their users are going through, what users are using products, platforms, how are they using it, what problems are they having. You can see all of this, and then you can also sell them additional products, services. You can reach out and talk to them to get feedback. Again, the iteration and flow between customer to user is such a better experience, and you can basically monitor and see what they like, what they don't like, and get feedback on that data to improve the software, improve the customer experience, and just, again, make it better for everyone. You can find that win-win scenario. Now, this next part is the E, which is the economic moat. And this is the big differentiator in SaaS versus other types of business models. Essentially, the economic moat, or what I like to call the engine, this is where SaaS basically becomes unfair. You have something that is defensible. A lot of software businesses I've bought in the past, they built 10 years, and the devs charge $100 per hour. Essentially, if you do the math like that, you're buying it for more than it's actually worth, and it's coming with customers, it's coming with the moat of the engine, and all the code base along with it. So when you look at that, you have a head start over competitors. If it costs them 10 years and $100 per hour to build this business, again, that's not how most software businesses are valued, but that's one way to look at it on how you have something that's defensible. It took them 10 years and a lot of hours to actually get that code base up to where it is now, and you're essentially buying it based on the profitability of the business. So the code is defensible, you have something that is a moat or a head start, and you actually have a really good business and an economic moat. And a lot of people think you need some crazy team, but what I've seen in general is there's businesses that I've bought for $500,000 that just have one developer behind it. Again, it's not like you need this huge team, but you do need the knowledge from that individual to come over and transfer it over with them. So trying to extract that knowledge is something that we build into every sort of acquisition, where there's a training program, we're documenting everything they know, and in the best case scenarios, a lot of software businesses we acquired, they have full-on training manuals that are 100, 200 pages that document every sort of thing you need to know about upkeeping and maintaining the software. Last but not least, this is probably the most defensible and the biggest reason I love SaaS, which is the R. And the R stands for recurring revenue, and this is the number one thing. You're not starting over at zero every single month. You understand the churn rate, you understand your recurring revenue, and you can really figure out how the business is going to grow and maintain over the next few years. You can do really established forecasting to figure out how much money you have for marketing, how much money you have for development, and again, you don't have to start over at zero. If the lights get turned off, those recurring subscriptions stay on, you've got a 2% churn rate, things are going to look good for a long period of time. You can really use this to your benefit, and it's one of the main reasons that software businesses sell for a little bit of a higher multiple, because they have more of a moat. Those recurring customers you already have are one of the biggest defensible reasons why I love software businesses and why they are one of the best businesses and ways to make money online. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you want to learn a little bit more about software, making money online, or just acquisitions in general, I'd love to speak with you. I'll put a link down below where we can have a quick call and I can walk you through what I'm working on and if there's any sort of room for you to work together with me. Also, I'm going to leave another video here that's hand selected for you. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.